Good evening, welcome to the overnight edition of Front Day One. Art Bell is back with more scary ghost stories as we rock the overnight in Dominion.
On the air, hello.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
This is Anita from Harrisburg, Oregon.
Hi there, Anita.
Hi. I have a kind of a freaky story to tell that happened to me. Actually, we've had several things happen to us in this house. And anyway, my husband and I had just watched a movie. It was the Amityville Horror. And we're getting ready for bed and went and got in. And I started getting this really icky feeling like something evil was in the room with me.
Yes.
And my husband had gone to sleep, and we had our 1-year-old son in the same room. And he started fussing and wouldn't settle down. And I was starting to doze off. Every time I doze off, I'd jump awake, like something kept bothering me, and I had this real evil feeling. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had dozed off, and I jumped awake again because it felt like something had taken a finger and run across my feet at the end of the bed, and I heard a hiss. It was a hiss.
And you don't have cats?
No, we didn't have any cats.
Hisses are really bad.
Yeah, but I had the light on all night. I was laying there on my back, because, so I could see all around the sides of me. And anyway, I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, so I said, just said a quick prayer, and that feeling went away. And we finally,
and son, whatever it was went away.
Yeah, it did. And my son settled down, and I settled down, and we slept the rest of the night. And
well, I guess we've got to ask: is it really the power of God? Is the prayer the invocation of the Lord's name?
Yeah, but
if Jesus does that really drive these things away, or is it just the command, your command, your mental command to be gone?
Yeah, but before that, my husband had seen a big figure in our doorway of the bedroom. He just saw the form of it, and this was like probably a couple months before my experience. And then it went away, and then a couple nights later, he woke up, and it was right in his face. And he goes, "What do you want?" And it says, "I want you." And he just laid there. He was just frozen. And then I woke up, too, and he was just drenched in sweat.
My God, you mean you both saw him, or you when you awoke, you saw him drenched in sweat, huh?
Yeah, he was all freaked out, and
I that's interesting because I've never heard of anybody coming back from "I want you."
Yeah, I know. Well, when we moved into this house, we had to clean it out, and upstairs there were stacks and stacks of witchcraft books, and we kind of think that had something to do with it.
Do you know anything about the former tenants?
Not really. Just that they weren't very clean. We had to clean up the whole house. And
they obviously had a big interest in witchcraft.
Oh yeah, big interest. And even my kids, when they were little, they slept up in that room where we cleaned the books out of. And my oldest son said he would see, he described them as white ladies dancing in the closet. And he said that they made kind of a growling sound.
Growling?
Yeah. Yeah, so we've had a lot of weird stuff happen here. But
that's another thing that would be really upsetting to me, would be a female growling.
Yeah, yeah, and my older daughter had seen him, too, at the same time. So I knew that they, and they were totally serious.
That's even more serious. When you have, like, two witnesses, two family members who see the same thing at the same time, if that really happens, time to move out.
Well, actually, we had a house fire, and it burned the whole upstairs.
You're kidding. Did it really?
Yeah, and so my husband remodeled the whole house, and we tore the whole top of the house off completely. And ever since then, we have not had anything happen here in this house.
Well, I wonder, but what does that say?
I don't know. That's really, that's another thing that's I found really strange because, after the house fire, we rebuild the house and nothing happens again.
So you burned the ghost out, or the ghost burned itself out. And what caused the fire? Do you know? Well,
they think it was an extension cord, but they're not sure.
Yeah, that's almost as good as swamp gas for UFOs.
This house was built in 1940, so, lots of things could have happened here.
But see, that sort of seems to say that whatever it was locked into that physical place, that physical building.
Uh-huh.
And so what in the world do you suppose happened to it when it burned?
I don't know. That's what I've always wondered. That's had me puzzled because, we were having so many weird things happen here, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Well, a lot of people in the audience scoff at this kind of thing, and they say, baloney. Stories, made-up stories. Not made up, is it?
No, none of it.
I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. No, not made up. Unfortunately, these things are real. I wish that we understood more about them. And try as we might, it seems nearly impossible to achieve that. Once again, you might take a glance at my webcam photo tonight when you get a chance. It was my in-the-mood photo. Well, let's see what lurks upon the wildcard line. You're on the air. Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Extinguish your radio.
I did.
Do you have a ghost story for us?
I certainly do, sir. Okay. So, I was in my house in Plymouth, New Hampshire, where I actually rented the apartment accounting office. And at one night, at about 10 o'clock at night, all of a sudden I heard some loud noise, which sounded like somebody was down there slamming one of the doors. Then I heard what sounded like somebody going into a file cabinet and just ripping through the files. Like you could just hear papers flying through.
Yep.
And then, and I was scared. I said, I yelled down to it. I said, who's down there? And I said, I have a gun up here. And no response, just started tearing through me even more. So I went and I called the local police. They showed up in 3 minutes. The noise stopped pretty much right as they showed up. I went out and, greeted them, and they were like, well, what's going on? And they went and they checked all the doors to make sure nobody had broken in. And then, sure enough, they said, oh, there's nobody in there. They shined their lights in there, whatever, and they left. Well, the next morning, or later that night, I heard nothing more. But then, the next morning, the accountant came in and said, I went down there and said to her, this was my landlord. I said, I thought, I have to tell you, I called the police last night. I thought someone had broken in and been going through your files. She's like, well, nothing's out of order. And she's like, that's really weird because I couldn't tell. It felt like somebody was holding the door when I tried to come in this morning.
Oh, really?
Is this our bell?
Yeah, of course it is, yes.
Yes, okay. Well,
like somebody was holding the door and she couldn't get in?
Yes, sir.
While all this was obviously going on, huh?
Yes, and then she went around the front, unlocked it, and went in, and went back to that back door, and that door was unlocked, and no one was there. And I was looking out every window in that house to make sure that, nobody came running out of there because it is a college town.
I've got to go at that point. Thank you. This is Ghost to Ghost AM. Good morning, everybody. I'm Art Bell, and tonight we're telling only ghost stories. That's all we're doing. Ghost stories. If you don't have a ghost story, don't call. And it better be a good one, too. And we're only taking quality ghost photographs sent to my esteemed webmaster. If you have a ghost photograph that just won't quit, not smoke, not, camera straps or anything like that, we want the real McCoy. Send it to webmaster@artbell.com, and we will post it tonight during the program. You can go look at it. By the way, I've got my own webcam. Remember when you were a kid? Well, wait till you see what the results are with me earlier tonight on my webcam. It says volumes about my mood. webcam picture, and it scares me. I did that myself. I look at that and I go, oh, my God, what's in me? You know? Maybe that's a good question. What's in me? You take a look at that. Do I have my evil side? God, I look terrible. Absolutely terrible. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Glad to have you back, Art.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew. I'm in Castro Valley, California.
Oh, yes.
Listen, I have a story that took place in 1980. I was a sophomore in high school. I don't know if you know where the town of Auburn, California is.
I do indeed. Oh, yes.
Well, I went to high school in Auburn there. The high school was previously a university that my father attended. Just about a half a mile away, there was the Auburn Courthouse. Very famous building, huge, and it had been abandoned for at least 40 years. Right after the war, they stopped using it and moved the courthouses to a more modern building. And I was an aspiring filmmaker in those days in high school, and so I managed to get permission from the county clerk to go in and do an amateur film in there, and I got the keys, and I went into the place with 2 or 3 friends of mine.
This was going to be what? Just some historical film?
No, this was just going to be kind of a romp, kind of a fantasy little thing. I didn't quite have it worked out. We were kind of winging it as far as the film goes.
Yeah.
But it was just an interesting background once I got in there. I had no idea what I was in for. As far as the story goes, and the architecture, too, was pretty amazing. We got inside the place. If you can imagine, just a huge box, basically, made of stone, 3 stories high, and then on top of that was a giant rotund, much like a Capitol building rotund.
Oh, yes.
And on top of that was a little miniature rotund where you could get up, kind of the crow's nest.
No, I can picture it. I've seen the buildings.
Okay. Well, we got in there, and the whole downstairs was all marble. I think it had been redone in the 20s and kind of Art Deco style. And there was dust and cobwebs everywhere. And we started setting up our equipment and looking around, and mostly we were using the film as an excuse to goof off because it was just such a tremendously interesting playground. And to have the keys to this place, I felt like I was getting away with something. But we started hearing banging noises coming from the upper floors, and we hadn't been up there yet, so we didn't know if anyone was in the building or not. Mm-hmm. And so we went up and checked it out. 2 of us did, and we had our girlfriends there. They stayed downstairs. They didn't want to go up, and there was no one there. So we came back down. We looked in all the courtrooms. And believe me, the courtrooms were lavish, dark, varnished wood.
Oh, even modern courtrooms are that way, and all through the South they stay that way. I mean, they're really old, as you point out, heavy wood, carved wood. You really have the feeling of old, sure.
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful. And in the downstairs, there were safes. There were these enormous safes with brass and steel and iron, and they were just open, several of them. And so we filmed some footage down there, and this banging continued. And so then after having found out that no one was in the building, the banging persisted, and we started really getting nervous. And yet at the same time, we were intrigued. We wanted to see something almost, We wanted to go up and have some experience, I guess, at that age. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of sneaked up there and looked around, and there was, again, no one there, nothing there. The electricity was on, so we could work the lights. And we came back downstairs, and I noticed that all my papers, my script in my little folder, was not on the bench where I left it. And I was looking around for it. Maybe I left it over where the safes are or somewhere else. And so I searched for it, couldn't find it. And then went back upstairs carrying all the equipment with us, and I noticed that, of all things, my camera strap was gone. Someone had actually taken the camera strap, unsnapped it off of the camera, the movie camera, and it was missing.
Yes.
So we carried everything up into this gigantic courtroom, and lo and behold, on top of there was my book and the camera strap neatly folded across it. And, there was only 4 of us. The girls were really reluctant to come upstairs at all. And so there was me and my friend, and I would have noticed if either of us had been carrying the book or the camera strap. And I went back down and asked the girls, how did the camera strap get off of the camera? And they said, oh, we don't know. We've just been sitting here the whole time. They were down there, having sodas and eating food or whatever. And so I'm like, okay. So we went back upstairs, and we had turned off all the lights because we wanted to see if we could do filming in the dark, with the present light coming in through the windows.
Only the young and stupid.
Well,
I mean, after all this, you're turning off the lights. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so we go back upstairs, and the light in the one courtroom is on. Now, I didn't think anything of it because, who knows, my friend could have gone back up there and turned it on, whatever.
Sure.
So we're in the courtroom, the light is on, I'm filming a little footage, and then the banging happens again. So all of us go downstairs, and the girls want to leave. They don't want any part of it now. They're scared because we've already told them there's no one here.
Proving again, girls are smarter than boys.
pretty much true. And but adventure kicks in, and so we really wanted to know what was happening.
What you call adventure is actually
stupidity.
Stupidity and youthful testosterone running out of control. Anyway, fine, you go.
Well, the girls decided to go, and it was, the lunch hour that we had, and that was pretty much over. Being studious individuals, they went back to school, and we stayed there, of course. And on the downstairs floor, there were cells, holding cells, made of.
That's right. There would be cells, wouldn't there, in a old courthouse? Well,
there sure were, and a couple of them had doors at both ends. They were like long, narrow cells with a door at one end, iron bar grates, and a door at the other end.
Gotcha.
Well, we went inside one of these cells, made sure that it couldn't lock. There was no lock on it. And the other end was wide open. We walked in. The door behind us slammed shut for no apparent reason. And so our instant reaction was to run like the dickens and go out the other end.
Yep.
Before it slammed shut. I mean, we were terrified at that point.
And so you made a dash for the other side.
We made a dash for the other side. We got out and entered into a different part of the courthouse, and circled back around to where we'd started, and it was open, as if it had never happened.
So let me guess, you went back in.
Well, no, we didn't go back into the cell. At this point, it had become like a game. We were just waiting to see what the next thing was that was going to happen. And we couldn't let it go. I mean, we weren't seeing anything. We weren't hearing voices or anything. We were just convinced that somebody's playing with us.
Yeah, well, these kind of games in the movies end up with dismembered bodies. Anyway, anything else?
Well, there was one final punctuation that made us all never go back. And that happened right outside the building in broad daylight, probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Up on top of the building, there were 4 statues. And they were the typical statue of justice holding the scales and the sword.
Gotcha.
Except they weren't blindfolded. They just had their eyes closed.
Right.
4 women on the cardinal points of the compass.
Gotcha.
On top. We were approaching the building, just the 2 of us, my friend Aaron and myself. We looked up. We were just about to go in the front door. I had the keys in my hand. We looked up at the statue, and her eyes were open. And then they closed.
And they closed while you watched?
They closed while we watched. And we looked at each other, and we literally did a double take. We looked back up at the statue because we both recognized that we both had seen it.
Yep.
And we looked back up, and her eyes were shut. And that was it. We turned around and went right back to school.
The first smart move you made. That's some story, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Art.
Yeah, take care. When you look up at a statue and the eye opens and then closes, It's really time to go. I bought the whole thing, and the only thing that could have caused me to reject that entire story would be if they'd have, climbed up to investigate the statue or gone in the house. That would have been too much for me, but I'll buy what he gave. That wasn't bad. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Oh, there you go.
Where are you?
I'm on Long Island.
All right.
New York. This is Russ. This is my first-time call, and I have something that happened to me when I was 4. I'm 47 now.
Okay.
And what happened was I was running around the house after my sister. My sister was 8. I was 4. And I couldn't catch up to her. And she ran down the basement stairs. I ran down there after her. And she's running around the basement, and she's laughing, and I'm trying to catch up to her. And as I was trying to get her, I saw the basement door open. And so I said, the heck with it, and I ran up the basement steps to go outside. And when I got to the top of the steps, I noticed my sister was in the backyard playing, and I looked down the stairs, and I said, well, if she's out there playing, then who's laughing downstairs? But, at 4 years old, who really, thinks of anything scary?
Yeah, of course not. You don't.
So then I just went outside, and I continued to play. That was the first thing that happened. And as I got older, my father would yell up the stairs at me and wake me up around 2 o'clock in the morning and say, what are you doing up there? Get to sleep. So I said, you just woke me up.
So something was going on around you.
He said he heard walking around. He says, you're walking around up there. I said, I'm not walking around. I said, you just woke me up. So now years go by, and I'm in the kitchen, and he's in bed sleeping, and my brother is upstairs sleeping now in that room, and and I heard walking around, and I went by the stairs, and I says, Jimmy, what are you doing? Walking around? What are you doing? So I went upstairs, and my brother was asleep. So I got a chill went up my back, and I says, geez, this is what my father's been hearing all these years,
There you are.
And so that's been going on for, that happened, that went on for quite a few years.
Have you ever seen anything?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Scared the hell out of me, too. I was around 15, I would think. And we had a whole, we had company over the house. It was a party for some reason. I don't know what it was. But anyway, there was a lot of people in the house. And I was coming out of the bathroom, and directly across from the bathroom is my mother's bedroom, my parents' bedroom. And so as I opened the door to come out, I saw a woman standing in the bedroom at the edge of the bed in a long white gown. I couldn't make the face out, but she was. It was just beautiful. That's all I can remember. It was just beautiful. And I went into the kitchen, and I said to my mother, I says, who's the lady inside in the bedroom with a long white gown on?
This sometimes could be a really bad thing to go tell Mom.
Well, she said...
Anyway.
Yeah, well, she said, I know what you're saying, bride and all that stuff, but no, she says, no, there's no here, and there's no one in the house with a long white gown on. So I says, I'm telling you, there's someone in your bedroom there. She's standing there at the edge of the bed, and she's looking out towards the hallway. And so we went in there, and of course there was nobody in there. And from that point, whenever I went past her door, I would never look in. Thank you. But because I did not want to see that woman again. Then there was one time where I came home from work pretty late, and I walked in the house, and it was dark, and I said, Ma, you home? Because I heard the TV on in the den, and she always kept the lights out. She just kept the den lights on, and
sure,
with the TV on. So she goes, I'm home. So I said, okay. I walked inside, and I walked in the den, and there was no damn TV on, and there was nobody home. So I flew out the door. I mean, I got these chills that went crazy. I just shot out that door. Then I was sleeping And I woke up.
We don't have a lot of time now, so.
Okay. All right. I was sleeping in my room, and the whole light was on. This is when I was just a kid, and I looked over towards a doorway, and there were two dark figures standing out my doorway. I don't know what they were, but they had these, they were shadows, and they had hats on, and they were about 3 feet tall.
Oh, we know what they are.
And
we know what they are.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you something, Art. They were standing outside my door, and then I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, I'm fully awake here. I was rubbing my eyes. I said, what the heck is that? And I looked over again, and now they were in the door. They were about a foot inside the door. So I just laid down straight. I could not believe what I was seeing. I just wouldn't, I just would not believe that there was something in the room. And with that, something grabbed my feet, and I shot up through the covers, and I went for the light, and I put it on, and there was nothing in the room.
Yeah, so physically grabbing your feet.
Something grabbed my...
Now, that would scare the hell out of you. I agree with you. Thank you very much. Bad enough to see things, hear things, walking about, and then see things. But the line is drawn at the grabbing of the feet. If something physically yanks on you, that means it's strong enough to have manifested itself physically in this world, and if it wants you, it's going to have you. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello, Art?
Yes.
Hi. I'm from Indiana. I'm private in the U.S. Military Army.
Oh.
And my sister had a story quite like the females before, but, I had just a little bit to add to that myself because I had one of the experiences somewhat in the same time. And we were young, living in an Army base out in Fort Meade, Maryland. And my sister was up all night frequently, and she was always scared, and she was always running to the bathroom, and we just thought she was having bad dreams. Well, what the young lady had described earlier was exactly what my sister was talking to us about and still continues to talk to us to this day. Something was literally scratching at her feet and grabbing at her feet, and she would run into the bathroom, shut the door, and just cry her eyes out. Now, during that time, I was also having things waking me up by breathing up in my face, and it would scare me so much that it would wake me up.
Right in your face?
Right in my face, and it just scared me completely, and Mom did not know what was going on with her kids. Now, at one time, I had felt something actually grab me, and I thought I was sleeping. I thought it was a dream, and to this day, it still feels like a dream, but I don't know. You tell me. But it almost felt like I was lifting up out of my bed and floating down the hallway, but it still, to me, it seems like a dream. But it
might have been an out-of-body, but when things physically grab at you, it's getting real serious, because if they want you, they got you.
I hear the drums echoing tonight. She hears only whispers of some quiet conversation.
Ghost to Ghost AM, actually. Only ghost stories all night long, and they're all from you. And they're pretty good ones. Ghost photographs to be directed to at artbell.com. Travis in Belfair, Washington asks, Art, have you ever considered doing a show in a haunted house for an episode of Ghost to Ghost?
I never dreamed that
I might, and I might not. I don't know. If I would want to go to a real haunted house, and there really are haunted houses, but then I have to ask myself, it would be in the middle of the night, like now, and would I really actually want to do a show from there? And the real actual answer might be no. I'm not so sure I would. I might. I know one thing for damn sure, I wouldn't do it alone. So my wife, at the very least, would have to come along. I think I heard, I don't think so, from the other room, or something even worse. So would I do it alone? No, I wouldn't. 1. West of the Rockies, you're on Ghost to Ghost AM. Cheers.
Art, cheers. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, sir.
I'm calling you from San Diego, listening to you on KOGO.
That'd be the one.
Yeah, Padres won tonight. Go Padres. But, I'm JD, and I talked to you one time before, I think. I'm the guy I'm really into the Somewhere in Time thing, too. I'm trying to bring it to stage, but... before I get into the ghost story...
now, you got it. Got to go right to the ghost story.
Well, this has to do with the ghost, because did you know Somewhere in Time was really not that hotel?
Yes, it was actually down near you.
Yeah, hotel.
Yes, I know all about that.
And that's a haunted hotel. They have a room shut down. But that's not my story. I am from Hollywood originally, and when I was about 20, I'm 34 now. A girlfriend of mine had a very successful father who bought a mansion up in the Hollywood Hills, and it had been empty for about 8 to 10 years or so, whatever. And the first night he bought it, he was very excited. He told his daughter, and we went to go check it out, and it had a pool. And I'm a swimmer guy from Hollywood.
Sure.
Anyway, it was a really creepy pool because all the plants and everything had kind of overgrown. And it was a black bottom pool. But it was nighttime, and I took a dive in. And I'm a great swimmer. It was a hot summer night. It was in August. And
young and stupid and in Hollywood.
Yeah, I was. And it gets worse. But so I dive in, and when I was under the water, I just got this panic feeling that something was wrong. And I got up, and I got right out of the pool, and I said, something's weird about that pool. So time passes. The gentleman whose house it was moved in, and he went away. He's got schools in London and Hollywood and New York. So he went away, and he didn't like me seeing his daughter. So I was not allowed at the house anyway, he was in London for 2 weeks, supposedly. So I went over.
Good time to see daughter.
Yeah, so I went over, and I brought my Ouija board, which I'd been messing around with.
Great idea.
I know. So we Ouija'd there, and we got a hold of, and I'd been familiar with it. She wasn't that familiar, and she thought it was being pushed. But it was these two little boys called Seth and Steve.
You mean that we're giving you messages on the Ouija board?
Yeah, for real.
Now, let me guess. The Ouija board probably said,
"Come on in, the water is great."
No, that was Art Bell on East and West of the Rockies. No, they were 4 years old and 7. And the 4-year-old absolutely despised me. He didn't even know how to spell. He knew how to say, like, a few curse words.
I got you.
But anyway, moving on. This 4-year-old, really despised, and my hair was standing up on my arms. I was like, I don't like this. This is weird. So there were these two boys, and the older one, who was 7 years old, explained that when somebody lived there about 12 years ago, they were not supposed to be hanging out there, but there was a very high wall on the other side of the pool, and they went, and the little 4-year-old fell, and the 7-year-old jumped in to save him, and the 4-year-old dragged him under. They both drowned. So they told us this on the Ouija board. So the next day, the girl's sister came over to the house to hang out by the pool, and we were all out by the pool. She wasn't going to tell her dad either. And she said, "Hey, did you know that 2 little boys drowned in this pool? And that's why it stood vacant for so long." And we looked at each other. We didn't tell her. So then here, I've never broken a bone in my body ever, once, and I still haven't to this day. But the dad, all of a sudden, the next day, comes home from his, London trip 13 days early. It's like he went there and turned around.
Yeah.
And he shows up and found me there, and we were up in his master bedroom, just, it was not pretty. Anyway, threw me out, but I was going out, and I ran out the back, and I was, like, in underwear and a T-shirt, and I went, oh, no, the Ouija board, if he finds the Ouija board. It was under the bed, so I ran back up, and I got the Ouija board, and as I was running out, something tripped me. I mean, there was nothing there. I was running down but I broke my foot, and I've never broken anything, but I know that little brat, that little 4-year-old, had tripped me. I mean, it was a panic situation. No, this is really real. And anyway, yeah, well, it's ghost night. So, hey, I listen to you every night. You're the best, Art.
All right, thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Take care. That would be terrifying in more ways than one, wouldn't it? Really, really terrifying to be caught like that. Whether it was a ghost or daddy, both were no doubt life-threatening situations. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. Just wanted to say here, I currently live in a house that has a couple of things in it since we've lived here.
Now? You live there now?
Yep, currently. Yeah, but it's always been here. House is about 20 years old, so it was built new. We moved in new. Nothing's ever happened, but something's always here.
What do you mean? What kind of something?
I guess it has to be spirits of some kind, because, like, we've seen things moving in the house. Everybody who is here, we've always seen something.
What do you mean moving?
Whether it's objects.
Moving in what way?
Like physically moving an object and playing games with it. Like.
Now, do you mean like sort of moving across a table? Do you mean something in the air? What do you mean?
Yep. Well, I've seen it myself move. I felt it like when I actually wake me up at nighttime. It's rather unusual. Like I've seen it move objects.
In what way?
Well, like just from side to side or up or down, and then it'll just drop it. It's actually taken objects, and then they've disappeared, and then they'll reappear like a few weeks later.
That sounds a lot like a poltergeist.
Lovely. Well, you know what else it's done? One time my brother, this was before he moved out, my older brother, he's reading a book, and all of a sudden he calls me upstairs, and he's like, Matt, he's like, something happened. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I smelled this awful smell, and it started burning his hair.
What?
Like, seriously, went in the room, and you know that disgusting smell when hair's been burned?
I certainly do.
Yeah, well, that was the smell in the room, and I'm saying, well, what are you talking about? He goes, well, I was reading my book, and all of a sudden my hair started catching on fire. So
that's a strong clue.
Yeah, it's a strong clue to move out.
You bet.
Yeah, and so it's always it's something
now,
every day.
Could you see anything? Was his hair singed?
Yeah, right at the top of it. Not a lot of it, but definitely enough to smell it. But I mean, that's just one thing. There's every night when I go to bed, it particularly likes picking on me, and it likes picking on my mom every single night. And
how can you handle that? I mean, how can you possibly handle that? How can you not move?
I haven't had a clue. Like, I've gone on on vacations, and this damn thing follows me. Like, I'm not joking. I could be in a hotel, and a day later on the trip, I'll just sense it in the room. I'm like, it's here again. It actually follows you around. I don't know how to explain it, but that's...
well, that's a fine way. You did fine. The question is, how can you stay there? I mean, how can you stay there even one more night? Burning hair, that's way over the limit for me.
I know. I'm here every night, and usually by myself, and I'm here right now by myself, and sure enough, 2, 3 in the morning, it starts up. I record music quite a bit for a living, and it seems to enjoy playing with my equipment, whether it be turns it off, turns it on, resets different banks in my synthesizers.
Well, it beats having your hair set on fire.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you. That's not good. That's not good. I know the exact smell he's talking about, and I'm sure you do too. You've smelled burned hair, haven't you? It's awful. But to have your hair self-ignite, that's a really strong sign. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
Hi, Art. This is Andy from Largo, Florida.
Hello, Andy.
How are you tonight?
Fine.
Good. Got a story about a glowing tombstone. Up in Michigan, it's really good. Up in Michigan, each town has their little local legends. There was a story about off at 100th Street out in Byron Center, there's this little cemetery, and they say, there's a glowing tombstone in it. And I remember in high school going out there, and yeah, you'd see it glowing through the years. It'd have vandals. One year, some kids took the stone. Well, the Post Farm family that maintains the yard replaced the headstone. And my friend Mark, that still lives up there, said every year, it's around Halloween, there's a big attraction, a big group of people that go out there. But anyway, it only glows during a full moon on a clear night. Sounds crazy. Well, I had vacation 3 years ago, and when I went up there...
Wait a minute. Let me understand. They replaced the headstone?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was glowing, because something was obviously really wrong. So they put a new headstone in, and it, too, glowed at a full moon.
The reason they replaced the tombstone is because I guess some kids got in there and actually stole the stone.
I got you, all right.
Or whatever, yeah.
But the new one glowed
and
as well.
The new one glowed, too. Well, when I was like, oh, please. Well, when I went up there on vacation, I looked up the Post Farm because I used to know the family. And most of the kids are all grown up and have their kids now. But Helen remembered me, and she talked to me for a little bit. It was nice talking to them, and I thought it was their mercury light or something reflecting, because everybody had cornfields out there. And the cemetery is so old. I mean, the headstone's at 1843 to 1920.
Right.
So he'd be, 77 years old. Hendrik Meyer, then the Meyer family from the Meyer farm. And she seemed a little stunned when I brought it up. But before I left, I took my rental car out there one night, shut the engine off by myself, and I'm looking at this, and it happened to be a full moon, and it sure enough, the headstone's glowing. Well, there was an old man about 10 feet from the stone. I don't know what he was doing out there, but he was just standing there. Now, most people say, well, how do you know? It just could have been somebody else, and not at 2:30 in the morning, because I'm a night owl. I'm up all night. Anyway, it was just really freaky. So I got in the car and took off and told Mark about it when I called him up a few days ago, and he says, oh, yeah, they're very common. But in high school, I don't remember hearing about the old man walking around. So they can't explain it. And I guess through the years, even some students from Michigan State actually broke a small chunk off and had it studied. And all it is just granite and, graphite or whatever.
Oh, well, yes. Though, I've seen a lot of movies, and in all the movies, college students who take chips of glowing tombstones die in puddles of mush.
Yeah, really. Hey, before you hang up, one more quick story that you'll appreciate. Remember you telling about the car that stops on a railroad track, and you can see, handprints on the back of it if you put powder on it?
In San Antonio, Texas, yeah,
okay,
that's absolutely true.
Right, well, check this out. I'm a waiter in a restaurant, and a table I had the other night went to Clarksville, Tennessee for vacation, where his uncle lives. And the same story, same scenario and everything. And I said, oh, come on. He said, well, we had to spread some butter on the back of the bumper, the back, the part of the trunk, of the bumper, just underneath it. And then they put some powder on it, so the powder would actually stick. Well, they say the same story. They've never heard of the San Antonio incident. They never even heard of your show. And I'm thinking, they were telling me this, because I got family that was raised in, Old Hickory, Tennessee.
Well, I don't know. What did they do? Did they go to a railroad tracks?
There's a railroad track.
Park the car, and you're saying that it got pushed off and they had handprints on the car?
Exactly. And the road's not on an angle, and it was an old school bus in the 30s, and a bunch of kids were hit by a train. And as of today, I know enough about, engineering and stuff. Come on. Your car's not going to just start moving by itself. There's no way. The road's flat.
No, absolutely not.
The same San Antonio story. So what is it? But they actually saw the handprints. Well, his wife was just so freaked out about it. It bothers her today.
It would always bother me, and it still bothers me today. Why? Because of all those souls that you would not expect to remain on Earth, there would be the children, right? the innocents, the really young ones, if their lives were taken tragically by a train hitting a school bus, there's no way my mind can grasp the concept of a God that would allow their souls to remain, to push cars every now and then. It just doesn't add up. Either that or the nature of things is not as we would have it be in our world. Maybe there's nothing fair about death at all. I mean, has that ever occurred to you? Everybody thinks, well, death is going to be fair because God's fair and God's good and God wouldn't allow anything bad to happen to our souls, right? But maybe the truth is there's not anything. There's not a damn thing fair about death. Even the innocent children and the most innocent of adults, maybe there's nothing fair at all. That's something to think about. The dark of night, huh? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Mr. L.
Yes.
Hi. I'm really glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Okay, and before I get started, this is a good ghost story about my brother. I wanted to shout out to everybody on FNet there in the Art Bell channel. This is the source, guys. I had just told them my story in there, and they said, you got to call her and tell him this. So,
all right, so you are.
Okay, my brother died a real violent death, and we were at his funeral, and he'd always told us that he'd believe in astral travel and out-of-body experience and practiced all that, and he told us he would find a way to tell us. So we're at the funeral home, and we're in a little room where there's a Coke machine and vending machines, and my brother Bill says, okay, Howard, if you're there, let us know. The lights in the room start flickering, the Coke machine flickers, it goes on about 5 or 6 minutes and stops. We talk to the guy who works there, and he says, that's never happened before, he's never had any kind of problems like that in a funeral home. So we were thinking, okay, that might be a coincidence. We're leaving after the funeral, and he had an old pickup truck that was rust bucket, and we had worked on this radio on it for a long time, over a year, trying to get it to work.
Right.
And he didn't want to buy a new one for it because it's an old work truck. And it never worked. We rewired it, put new speakers, tried to hook them up. We're pulling out. As we pull out into the road from the funeral home, the radio comes on. It's ZZ Top. It's his favorite song. It plays the whole song, and then the radio goes off, and it's never played since.
Really?
And, yeah, that's
really. Oh, that's in the world of is it a sign or isn't it a sign? That is 100% sign.
Well, it gets better. The light flickering thing, it started becoming more and more persistent and really consistent in my life and my family's life. I moved into an apartment about a month later. The light across the street on the street light was flickering for about a week. Then it moved to the light on my side.
Yes.
And a few days later, the light downstairs, and then the light above my apartment went to about a week. And my brother called my mother 1 minute after midnight on her birthday, all her life. To this date, this is the most convincing evidence. To this date, on her birthday, 1 minute after midnight or 2 minutes, her phone rings. When she answers it, it's a dial tone. And it still happens. We've had friends over on her birthday just to see it happen. Now we don't know if someone's pranking, but for the first couple of years.
I don't think so. That's a conscious thing, definitely.
But the light thing, it's to the point where my wife believes it now because we can be at the mall and it'll happen, and she'll go to work. She says it doesn't happen when I'm not around you.
Gotcha, sir. Listen, I got to go.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
I absolutely felt this wonderful love come through me. And so we walked out of the graveyard. It was probably about 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock in the evening. And we walk into the yard, and I'm still feeling all of these. And my husband goes to take a picture, and I thought, oh, maybe they'll show up. So I asked St. Michael to allow them to show up and to show up in this particular photograph. And the odd thing is, they did, but I didn't tell my husband. We got the film back about a year later.
Why wouldn't you tell him?
I don't share stuff like that often because, I'm kind of like that a little bit.
Even with your husband?
No. But I did later because when we got the film back, we forgot to develop it.
Yes.
And I forgot all about it. So when we got the film back, there's this giant light glowing around me. And I had 2 St. Michael's medallions, one in each hand because I was going to give them as gifts to people, and I put one in each pocket. And my hands look like they're on fire. and this giant form is radiating above me, and you can see a face. Now, I have a friend who's a graphic artist, and she went looking for faces, and I said, I'm not going to tell you where the faces are, you tell me. So she went looking for faces, and she does, like, layouts for magazines. She's an editor. So she's got a very detailed eye, and she found another face, which is directly above the cross in the steeple of the mission of Santa Barbara, which looks like, a little bit like, you know, the picture that you have on your web of Jesus at the Vatican. It looks a little bit like that.
Yes.
And it was really overwhelming. And then I went and I showed this picture to a friend, and she said, I never believed you about your ghost until I went and visited a friend who went to Santa Barbara, and I walked to that graveyard. She said, I just had to get out of there. I was panicking.
Well, see, now, there's another aspect, thank you, of all this that bothers me. And that is graveyards. Again, I'm going to say this, and I don't know how you all want to be disposed of when your time on Earth is gone. But graveyards don't sound too good to me. I mean, in terms of where I think I would like to go when my time comes. I'm leaning toward the ash idea. This graveyard thing, I don't know. Don't want to think that there's any consciousness left, and if there is, that it's stuck anywhere near a graveyard, because that wouldn't be a good place to spend a lot of after time. You know? We're going to have our, by the way, our electronic voice phenomena people on again soon. They record voices in graveyards. So you see what I mean? Think about your own final disposal. Do you really, really want to be down 6 for at least part of the day? East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. Hello.
Where are you?
I'm in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, yeah. Right.
Okay, I have this one for you. I was, this road that I'm referring to, that these two incidents happened on the same road in the same year.
What incidents?
Okay, one is on a school night back in high school. There was, I had a stepmother that I had to pay mileage on her car, to use her car to go somewhere. So that's what I was doing. On a school night, I went to a friend's house supposedly to study. And I went over and I picked up 2 girls. One was named Sue, and one was named Alexis. I hope they're listening tonight.
Hey, Sue and Alexis.
We were down this road in front of an elementary school, and we were driving, not very fast. It's like maybe 35, 40. And a man, an elderly man, and his dog. You could see, I mean, it looked just real as real can be.
Sure. Did what?
I hit him.
You hit them?
I hit the ghost. Now, if you can imagine, I have 2 teenage girls.
Did you feel a thump?
There wasn't time. I had 2 hysterical teenage girls screaming at the top of their lungs.
You have my sympathy on that, but I mean, when you hit this, whatever it was, I mean, you hit a dog and a human, right?
Yes, sir.
Or what was supposed to be a dog and a human. And so obviously, all 3 of you saw the same thing. They wouldn't be screaming otherwise. And so what did you do?
There was no noise. I had to keep my composure and try to settle them down, and I had to try to decipher and disseminate what just happened.
And so
I was able to, and we all realized something did transpire there, and they wanted to go home, and I took them home. And to this day, I didn't even go home and share that with my parents or my mother, or my stepmother, because I had to borrow her car and I'm supposed to be out studying.
And where was this?
Outside of Chicago.
Outside of Chicago. So if they're listening this morning, they could contact me. And if you contact me, I'll put you all on together, and you can verify that story.
Let me tell you, my uncle, one of my relatives on that same road, he built a nice house about 4 years later. I went to a Christmas party, and his neighbor is an elderly man. And at this Christmas party, for some reason, I started a conversation with this man.
Yes.
And I asked him how long he lived there in the area, and he said forever. So I asked him, I said, down the road, was there any man that ever died that had a dog?
Yes.
And he said he knew his name. It was his neighbor. He died. A car hit him, and he died. And I'm at this Christmas party with my relatives.
Yep.
And I didn't say anything because I didn't understand it. And over the years, I've listened to Father Martin.
Well, I still don't understand it. It's the scariest, most worrisome thing you can think about. If ever there's an innocent, it's somebody killed out walking their dog across the road, right? And this guy seems to be reliving getting hit by a car or many cars again and again and again. For what? Eternity?
And we, the three of us, we have to live that because it's part of our life, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure it is. Well, maybe the girls will get in touch with me. It frequently happens. There's a whole lot of this that really is genuinely scary because it's just unimaginable to me that people would be sentenced to these horrible eternities. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, Art. It's Brad.
Yes.
In Rancho Santa Fe, just half a mile from the Heaven's Gate incident.
Oh, yes. I can imagine there may be some ghosting about there.
I'm 45 years old. The story I'd like to tell you took place quite some time ago, back in the 70s. If you remember, towards the end of the Beatles' career, they embraced transcendental meditation for some time.
They sure did.
Well, believe it or not, when I was a junior in high school, the people that ran that cult came to our school on career day, to a public high school.
I'll be darned.
Under the guise of, they told the people that ran the school that if we all did this meditation, that we would all get better grades. They actually called it the science of creative intelligence at that time.
Did they really? And they thought schools were foo-foo these days.
Well, they bought it, and my mother did it. Just about everybody in the school signed up.
Really?
Well, what happened was after about 3 or 4 years...
Wait. Hold your story at that point. We have a break, so
okay.
I'm just going to hold you over, and we'll finish the story, all right?
Thank you, Art.
All right, stay right there.
Back at home with my wife, we were in bed messing around, and we're both kind of guarded people, but guarded as in, we don't let a lot of things out. I pay attention to a lot of things, and I trust my senses. Well, in bed, we were lost in thought, or whatever you want to call it. I got this feeling come over me as if something was in the room with me. And I never felt this feeling before, but like I said, I trust my senses, and I knew something immediately was wrong.
That'll take away the moment.
Well, it did take away the moment, and suddenly I got a vision in my head that I've never had before, and it was frightening. What I saw was, imagine seeing a pit of hell with brimstone and fire and people in agony, and that flashed through my head. I don't know how long it took, but it flashed in my head, and I stood up in bed, kind of bolt upright, and I got really cold all of a sudden. This was in the summer.
People in agony?
Yes, people in agony, screaming, writhing in pain.
Many people in agony?
Yes, it was just, like I said, it was just a brief flash in my mind.
Kind of like, listen very carefully. piece of that, maybe?
That brings chills to me because it was very similar to what I saw and heard and felt. Anyways, I kind of turned to my left and I saw something flash out of the corner of my eye, and that really frightened me. And I turned to the right and kind of swung my feet out of the bed, and I saw a figure move from our bathroom into the doorway. And I turned, immediately looked to the doorway, and saw a figure move. Well, that frightened me. I jumped out of bed. I stood in the doorway, and I saw a figure running.
Well, to figure out what figure was running, you'll have to come on back tomorrow night for the conclusion of Ghost to Ghost AM from 1996. Until then, please make sure you do help us get to the goal of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. So Foxy over and Extra sends us those nice red packages we can send to all of you, and Google puts us on the algorithms. Till tomorrow night, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Kraken as we march along this overnight and every overnight here from day one. Till then, have a great night's sleep. We'll see you tomorrow.